All right, class. So we are going to get started on chapter 7. Right before that, actually, I wanted to talk about the product advertisement assignment or the project. So, really quick, just to kind of give you a quick overview of what I'm looking for there. Um, in this, I want you to use terms from chapters 6, 7, which we're covering, and 8. So, if for some reason you're not quite sure how to use some of those terms from chapter 8, don't use them. Just keep that in mind. So, at least 10 terms, everything's literally online, super easy to follow. What I really want you to do is show me how advertisings are using words to manipulate. All right, that's the key thing. Whether they're using the fallacies, manipulative terms, you're definitely going to see in chapter 7 and in chapter 8. Chapter 8, suggestions, sensationalism, soundbite framing, lead, fuzzy words, product placement. We're going to talk about that in a second. Gestalt principle and subliminal persuasion. Those are words you can use, but make sure you're using them correctly. On that note, I want you to make sure you are aware of the fact that the word suggestion is make sure you're using that term right. So they're not suggesting you use the product. They're talking about suggestive behavior, like, you know, if there's nature sounds, they're suggesting you should be out in nature, that kind of thing. Also, if for some reason you use product placement is not an ad that you see in between commercials or before a movie. Product placement is in the TV show or in the movie where they would have the Pepsi sitting right on a table. So you'll see that in the movie, right? So product placement is product that's placed within, a TV show where you just kind of notice it. You'll also notice certain products will have labels, the words misspelled or something like that. So you can see it's not the same product, even though it kind of looks like it. So keep that in mind. Product placement is not the advertisement you see before a movie or in between TV shows, okay? So, what else here? Pretty easy. Just kind of do a quick PowerPoint and show me what you know that the ads are doing. That's the biggest thing here is understanding, how are they manipulating the consumer? Explore those effects of manipulation. And we're going to talk about some of that today in chapter 7. Make sure you do 3 ads that are selling similar products. That actually makes it easy, whether it's a type of fast food or a type of medicine or cleaning product, that kind of thing. So the closer the products are, the easier it is. My only thing is if it's like, all this, like if you did like video cameras or something or phones and they're all the same, unless maybe you can find different ways in which companies, I guess you could do different companies types of cell phones. That could work too. So I want you to see within the ads there's a certain type of consistency or inconsistency. Make sure you watch these ads multiple times. For those of you who have sent me the videos through your responses, make sure you double check. It's okay if for some reason you want to change it because you're not getting out of it what you feel you need. That's okay. I'm not holding you to that. I just wanted to see what kind of ideas you're getting and if you're following what it is I'm looking for. Thus far, everyone did good. I think as you move forward, you'll go, oh, I see now what she needs. Make sure, so you're not really doing a presentation to me, you are just making a presentation I can maybe click through. You can do videos if you want, absolutely, you can do the same kind of thing. That's actually kind of cool. What else? Again, the 10 terms, summarize each ad, explain how they manipulate or affect the consumer, and explore the ideas that are present in both chapter 6, 7, and 8. So 8's a little bit tougher because we haven't covered it yet, so I'm not, again, holding you hard to that one, but definitely 6 and 7 for sure. Don't ignore chapter 8. Try and see if you can do some practicing with it. But if it's too much, I understand. I'm not going to hold it to you there. So in your PowerPoint, make sure that you refer to them, that I understand what you're trying to get at. Also, don't forget 5 different sources at the very minimum. Like before, you probably saw that I was dinging you if there weren't enough sources. And the sources are pretty easy. You got the 3 ads, so right there you have 3. at least the textbook, so that's 4, and then an additional source, that's your 5th one, that's going to help you provide interesting information or background, whether on the consumer, the history of the product, and that kind of stuff. Forgive me, I don't know why if you can hear that, fucking biker right now, right outside the window. Anywho, I live in the ghetto apparently. All right, so anyway, at least 5 sources. Again, I printed it here myself, but you can find it all online. Make sure you if you're putting in images, you have to make sure you make a note of them. Let's see here. Do the figure 1, figure 2, figure 3 with the sources in parentheses. All right. Again, this tells you everything. It's pretty easy. Don't just do URLs. I hate that. If you're doing a cited source and all you give me is a link to a URL, that drives me crazy. And you might notice I probably didn't give you credit for it. So don't give me URLs. Make sure you have the name of who was the author, the title of what it is, where it came from. You can do the link at the very end. That's what I would look for, but not just the link itself. Okay. So again, Google MLA format. We want I believe it's the 8th edition, the most recent. Okay. Let's see here. That's pretty much it. You'll see all the due dates are going to stick the same. I have extended some of them in case you're like me and having any kind of internet issues, that kind of stuff. So if you have questions, message me. I haven't been too bad on getting back to some of you. But anyway, so just keep reaching out. Again, I'm not I'm not freaking out because I know that we're all in very peculiar places and situations right now. So that's pretty much it for that advertisement. So if you have any questions, please let me know. You can do PowerPoints from like Google Docs. Those are totally fine. When you send me those, sometimes if it's a download, if I have to download it, it doesn't work. So you have to upload it into the Google Docs. I'm sorry, upload it into Canvas. So I shouldn't have any issues with this. If you're having issues, let me know. Trying to think of what's going to be easiest here. Yeah, I haven't had any issues so far, but just keep me posted. All right, so we're going to go on to chapter 7, the power of language. So I'm doing my little PowerPoint, so I'm kind of going through it. First slide, we're talking about the different vocabulary terms. Now, these are important because you're going to see all of this in advertising. We've got the denotation, the connotation, reification, vagueness, ambiguity, doublespeak, euphemism, spin, jargon, a gobbledygook, and romancing the product. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask is language powerful and important? Yeah, absolutely. How is it and why is it important? So obviously we use language to tell people our feelings. How are you feeling? Especially now, some of us might be really close to family members and we might have to tell them how we're feeling before we lose our minds, okay? We use it to ask for things, we use it to argue or convince, and then sometimes to explain and to clarify. So vocabulary, the use of words is very, very important. So, next slide over. How are we trained to use language? Well, we use it for everything to communicate, obviously. Whether we're asking questions or not asking questions, sometimes asking questions is rude. We use language to apologize. A lot of us might be apologizing to some of our partners and family members and children as we're stuck in some close quarters. Maybe we also use it to say thank you, to be courteous. Also going through rituals. Watch newscasters. Watch the way they announce and pronounce things. It's funny. It's like a newscaster way of speaking. And then other times we use it in rituals, may I present so-and-so through award ceremonies, right? Okay. We're trained to have good grammar. And the reason for that is communication and proper communication so that we are not miscommunicating and misconstruing what people are saying. So it's important. This is why people and teachers try and push for good grammar so that we are always understood, not misunderstood. Okay. And also we use language to be direct. I want that cookie. May I have that cookie? And are there any more cookies? Right? So, or my favorite, are you gonna eat that cookie? I just did that last night, actually. Okay, so can people be lazy with language or take shortcuts? Absolutely. You see this all the time. Cliches like, I work like a dog, or slang, totally freaked out, man. Sometimes we use it to opt out of situations like whatever. Like, when we're having an argument, we're breaking down, whatever, just leaving. Most people speak in cliches or spend very little time communicating honestly. You will see that a lot, especially nowadays. And I wonder if that's the issue is I do love the internet and I love social media and I love this beautiful way in which we use language and we manipulate it nowadays to where nouns all of a sudden are verbs. Like, I'm adulting. Like, I don't know. So there's a lot of creativity in using language, but at the same time, I think it also breaks down our ability to communicate well or understand certain things. And then again, we aren't truly communicating honestly. We are literally at a loss for words. Okay, so I think communication and language is very, very important. So sometimes college is commonly the last time people think very analytically, unless it's a part of their job, and even then it becomes repetitive very quickly. I love college for the ability to think for ourselves and, again, analytically. Sometimes you'll notice I don't tell you necessarily exactly, all the things exactly what I want you to do. I sometimes also want you to come up, and think critically about the ways in which you approach things. So I give you all the information. I want you to come to me and bring me information, right? Think analytically. Deeply and think critically. That's what this class is, critical thinking. Okay. So a couple of our vocabulary words here. We have denotation and connotation. So denotation is what the word is actually meant to mean, like the meaning of the word. Okay. A denotation is what the word's supposed to mean, but connotation are the feelings and the emotions and maybe the images, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. It's the feelings we get from the words. Okay, denotation is the word, connotation is the feeling that it gives us. Okay, so the connotations of words include their emotional meanings. So both concrete and abstract words have connotations that are different for every individual. And I wish we were doing word spring because this was literally going to be what I was going to teach, was what my seminar was going to be, the understanding of abstract versus concrete. Concrete is this cup. Okay, this cup is concrete. I can touch it, taste it, feel it. It's there. Abstract, you cannot taste, touch, or I physically feel. Like the word love is incredibly abstract. But if I say, what does love mean to you? When I say, what do you see when you hear of the word love? That could be anything. It could be two people kissing. It could be a rose. It could be a heart. It could be all this stuff. So I hate abstract words. I absolutely hate them because they don't give you, I think, what you mean to say. Just say the actual thing, okay? Especially when my students do poetry, I always go, don't use abstract words. Say the damn thing, all right? Plus, for me, I feel like abstract words, unfortunately, create the possibility for miscommunication when we use abstract words like love or hate or this, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that was just a personal thing. Keep that in mind when you guys are writing poetry if you're ever in any of my creative writing classes. Okay, so the first thing to understand is that there is what the word means versus how we feel about it. Again, connotation versus denotation. So the words fat, chunky, obese, etc. Some of you might have had a physical reaction to that. That is the connotation. The word itself, fat, chunky, obese, that's the denotation. So a house, a shack versus a mansion, all right? Do you have now all of a sudden different views of what these are? A dog, a canine, a beast, or a puppy, okay? So people use different connotations concisely. A lot of times, especially as a writer, I will make sure I use the right word. Words are very important because I want people to have a certain reaction to a certain word versus an unconscious use, which sometimes tells us how people feel, right? So if some people are using certain words unconsciously, that's how you know how they feel. Okay, so the same word can have different meanings to different people, and a lot of times these words are inappropriate and disrespectful. But to some people, they might not feel that way. So, Thanksgiving. A lot of people are like, oh, Thanksgiving, I love it. Get close to the family. Some people are like, Thanksgiving is incredibly disrespectful from where they come from, right? So if you're a Native American, you might go, honestly, I don't really care much for Thanksgiving, whatever the history books say. This is just how some people have a feeling towards a certain word. Okay, Washington Redskins. Okay, this is a really big one because Redskins is a very derogatory term. Like, it's incredibly offensive, but we still use it. Do you remember back, I think it was last chapter, when we were talking about one of the fallacies, which was, but we've always done it that way. Well, to say, well, we've always been the Washington Redskins is completely fallacious because it's kind of like, hello, whether or not we've always used it doesn't mean it's any less inappropriate. Okay, so when we talk about value conflicts, what do we value? Some people value the fact that it is something that is quote unquote historical. We've always used it, it's always been that way. That's our team. Versus those who go, yeah, but it was also during a really racist time and it's incredibly inappropriate. Right? Some people value the past versus the culture, right? So when we talk about value conflict. So again, the arguments that people will use is we've always been this way versus, yeah, but it's inappropriate. Let's maybe consider something else. Okay. Would you say Washington wetbacks or the Washington N-words? Probably not. It's incredibly inappropriate. So then why do we use the word Redskins? Okay, so just kind of some things to think about of that power of language and the connotations and denotations that they create. So some words are highly negotiated depending on the context. So if any of you had my English 2 class, this is a lot of stuff I talk about in the very beginning of class where words are very powerful and the ways in which we use them in certain contexts. So lady, woman, girl, or chick, right? So some people are like, don't call me chick, I am a woman, or I'm a lady, right? So it's just a context and how some people would prefer either to be called or used, or how we, when we talk about a woman versus a lady versus a girl and a chick, every single one of those words has a completely different connotation. Then we have the use of the word gay, homo, fag, or queer. If you are within the LGBT community, use those, they use those words and that is a part of their community. But when you start using those words outside of the community, it becomes derogatory and inappropriate. Does that make sense? Kind of like only some people can use the N-word, as they would say. And there's just some communities where certain words are okay to use because it's their community, it's their understanding, it's their word, let's be truthful, versus using it outside where majority of the time, if you're using certain dialogue, your intention is inappropriate. Does that make sense? So just consider that when you think about the words that you're using. And you can also think about the ways in which that we have different words for different things. So think about all the different words we have for breasts, right? I'm probably not going to go down that list, but okay, you can kind of get the hint there, okay? All right, so ads and products manipulate us with connotations, right? So milk can be low fat, organic, 1%, calcium added, hormone free. Sometimes each one of those words makes us go, oh, it's hormone free, I like that. Or it's organic, I like that too. These kind of key terms that lead us into wanting to buy the product. People can also lie to themselves with certain language. So downloading, streaming, torrenting, file sharing, but no one actually says stealing. All right, you're downloading something but without the proper rights, that's considered stealing. But we might lie to ourselves, I was just downloading it, it's not that big of a deal, I wasn't stealing it. Same thing. Think about the immigration debate too. Also think about the dialogue we use when we talk about immigration. Undocumented workers, illegal aliens, immigrants, asylum seekers. So you'll notice a lot of those terms can be really, they're just negative terms, like illegal aliens. Everything about that goes, you don't belong here, right? So these terms that are used create a certain connotation in your mind. Versus an asylum seeker, when you hear asylum seeker, it's yes, please come in, we will help you, we understand. Versus undocumented workers, like these words that we use to put an image in our head or a feeling so that we have a different reaction to it. And you notice politicians do that, right? And this, again, people do this in ads too. And then we talk about plagiarism, and that I use it often because a lot of times we don't do quotes around exact wording, or we cite a source without giving people the proper work, or without the right paraphrasing, right? So that's just another way in which I use plagiarism versus stealing. Does that make sense? Plagiarism just sounds a little nicer. All right, so language is very, very important. We're going to use the word reification. Okay, reification is a process by which words become more. Whoops, I almost lost my little guy. Words become more real than the actual reality itself. Okay, so reification is where we give something more power because of the name. Think about this. Are you going to go buy Pop-Tarts or toaster pastries? You're like, well, Pop-Tarts, of course. In our heads, there's more value in the word Pop-Tart versus toaster pastries. All right. Are you going to go buy Pepsi or cola? I don't know who calls it cola. Soda pop? I don't know. All right. So Band-Aids, Jello, Saran Wrap, and dumpster are all words we use to actually to talk about a thing when those are actually name brands. So a bandage, we call those Band-Aids. Even though Band-Aids is the name brand, but we apply Band-Aid to pretty much like all bandages for the most part, right? Or Jello. Not all Jello is the name brand Jello, but we call Jello Jello. It's gelatin. Okay. Saran Wrap is cellophane, but we call pretty much all cellophane, oh, can you go get the Saran Wrap? Even if it's, some generic brand, we still call it Saran Wrap. Same as dumpster. Dumpsters behind, buildings and whatever. Dumpsters is a name brand, not what that thing is called, right? Isn't that crazy? When I first heard that, I was like, oh, duh, dumpster. So again, like Pampers in other parts of the countries, other worlds or whatever, they use that as a disposable diaper. So Pampers is, even though there's Loves and Huggies and all this, Pampers is considered like the universal, like, oh, Pepsi. They use that as the term, or not Pepsi, but like Band-Aids or Jello. And then we think about the stuff that we eat. Escargot, which is snails, right? But if you call it escargot, I might be saying that very un-Frenchy. You're really eating snails. Surgeon eggs are caviar. Goose liver, we call it pate. Sneakers versus Jordans, or watch versus Rolex. All right. So these names absolutely change how we feel about a product. You guys ever remember Hydrox? Hydrox is the super generic brand of like Oreo. And one time in freshman year in high school, they're like, oh, can you guys bring in, snacks? And I brought Hydrox because it's cheap. Who cares? It's like, tastes like Oreos. And I was made fun of by this dude, and he kept going, ooh, your Hydrox? I got Oreos. And I was like, oh. And it really messed with me, but it's the same damn thing, right? It's this connotation, or this power, right? We give this power to the name over what the product is. Wild, right? That's why name brands sell so well. Okay, so it can also be weighted. Where are you going to give your, like, certain language can be weighted. Like, are you going to give your child a swat or a slap? Okay, a spanking or a beating. Okay, so it's really weighted based on, you're probably doing the same damn thing. It's just in how you say it. I just gave him a little swat across the butt, when really it's still a spanking, right? Am I a professor or an instructor? That term is weighted, right? Are you going to college